Intimacy is often misunderstood as something that can be unlocked with the right words, gestures, or timing. But in reality, it grows from a foundation of emotional safety. Emotional safety is the quiet assurance that both people can be authentic without fear of judgment, pressure, or manipulation. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she does not feel like she is being evaluated or rushed. Instead, she feels respected as a person with her own pace, boundaries, and emotional world. This sense of safety is what allows intimacy to develop naturally, rather than being forced or negotiated through clever phrasing. Many people focus heavily on what to say in moments of closeness, believing that the perfect sentence will guarantee acceptance. However, emotional safety is communicated far more through behavior and attitude than through specific lines. It shows up in patience, in the willingness to listen, and in the ability to tolerate vulnerability, both yours and hers. When someone senses that they are being listened to with genuine interest without interruption or hidden agenda, they relax. That relaxation is a doorway to intimacy. Building emotional safety requires consistency. It is not created in a single conversation. It is established over time through repeated experiences of respect and reliability. If your words suggest care, but your actions show impatience or entitlement, emotional safety weakens. A woman is more likely to open up when she sees that her comfort is prioritized consistently, not just when intimacy is being discussed. This means respecting small boundaries, honoring her opinions, and showing empathy even in everyday interactions. These moments accumulate and signal that closeness is safe. Another important aspect of emotional safety is the absence of pressure. Pressure can be subtle. It can appear as persistent persuasion, disappointment when she hesitates or attempts to convince her that her boundaries are unnecessary. Even gentle pressure can create emotional tension. True safety exists when she feels free to say yes or no without fearing negative consequences. When a person knows their autonomy will be respected, they are more willing to explore closeness because it feels like a choice rather than an obligation. Emotional safety is also strengthened by vulnerability. When you share your thoughts and feelings honestly, without oversharing or expecting her to fix them, you model openness. This kind of vulnerability is not about dramatic confessions. It is about expressing yourself in a grounded and sincere way. When she sees that you can talk about emotions calmly and respectfully, it reduces the fear that intimacy will lead to conflict or misunderstanding. It creates a balanced exchange where both people feel equally human and accepted. Trust plays a central role in emotional safety. Trust is built when words and actions align. If you say you value her comfort but dismiss her concerns, trust erodes. If you follow through on promises and treat her feelings with care, trust deepens. As trust grows, the fear of rejection or embarrassment diminishes. Intimacy becomes less about risk and more about shared connection. It is also important to recognize that emotional safety includes self-awareness. Understanding your own motivations and emotions helps prevent unintentional pressure. When you are aware of your expectations, you can communicate them clearly without placing responsibility on her to meet them. This clarity reduces misunderstandings and creates a transparent environment where both people know they are engaging honestly. Ultimately, intimacy flourishes in spaces where emotional safety is actively protected. It is nurtured through patience, empathy, and respect for autonomy. Rather than searching for the perfect words to secure closeness, focus on cultivating an atmosphere where closeness feels welcome and unforced. When emotional safety is present, conversations about intimacy feel like natural extensions of connection instead of stressful negotiations. In that environment, both people can approach closeness with curiosity and confidence, knowing that their feelings and boundaries will be honored. Rejection is often interpreted as a personal failure, but in the context of intimacy, it is more accurately understood as feedback about timing, compatibility, and emotional readiness. When someone experiences rejection, the immediate reaction is usually emotional, embarrassment, disappointment, or self-doubt. However, when viewed through a healthier psychological lens, rejection becomes information rather than judgment. It communicates that, at that moment, the two people involved are not aligned in comfort, desire, or expectations. This understanding shifts rejection from something to fear into something to learn from. One of the biggest challenges people face is attaching their self-worth to another person's response. When rejection is taken personally, it can trigger insecurity and defensiveness. A person may start to question their attractiveness, value, or likability. But intimacy is complex and influenced by many factors beyond personal worth. A woman's hesitation or refusal may reflect her emotional state, past experiences, boundaries, or simply her need for more time. Recognizing these possibilities helps separate her decision from your identity. It reminds you that rejection is situational, not a verdict on your character. Viewing rejection as feedback encourages emotional maturity. Instead of reacting with frustration or withdrawal, you can respond with curiosity and respect. You might reflect internally by asking what the moment revealed about communication or pacing. Perhaps the conversation moved too quickly, or emotional trust had not yet been fully established. This reflection is not about blaming yourself. It is about understanding interpersonal dynamics. Feedback, when processed calmly, becomes a guide for improving how you approach connection in the future. Another important aspect of rejection is its role in clarifying boundaries. Healthy relationships depend on the ability of both people to express limits without fear. When a woman says no or expresses discomfort, she is communicating a boundary. Respecting that boundary immediately strengthens trust, even if the answer is not what you hoped for. It shows that you value her autonomy more than your immediate desires. Ironically, this respectful response can create a stronger emotional foundation than if intimacy had been agreed to under pressure. Rejection also builds emotional resilience. Learning to tolerate disappointment without becoming bitter or self-critical is a key part of personal growth. Each experience of rejection is an opportunity to practice regulating emotions and maintaining perspective. When you respond with calm acceptance, you reinforce your own sense of stability. You demonstrate to yourself that your confidence is not fragile or dependent on constant approval. This resilience makes future interactions feel less intimidating and more authentic. Communication plays a significant role in how rejection is experienced. When handled with empathy on both sides, rejection can actually deepen understanding. A respectful conversation might reveal preferences, fears, or expectations that were previously unspoken. For example, she may share that she prefers to build emotional closeness more slowly. This insight provides valuable information about how to proceed in a way that honors her comfort. Instead of closing doors, rejection can open conversations that strengthen mutual awareness. It is also important to normalize rejection as a natural part of human interaction. No two people are perfectly synchronized in their desires at all times. Expecting constant agreement creates unrealistic pressure and sets relationships up for tension. Accepting rejection as a normal occurrence reduces anxiety and allows both people to interact more freely. When rejection is not dramatized, it loses much of its emotional sting and becomes a manageable aspect of connection. Self-compassion is essential when processing rejection. Treating yourself with kindness prevents the spiral into harsh self-criticism. You can acknowledge disappointment without exaggerating its meaning. Remind yourself that seeking intimacy requires courage and vulnerability. The willingness to express interest is itself a sign of openness and growth. Even when the outcome is not what you hoped for, the act of communicating honestly is a positive step. Ultimately, understanding rejection as feedback transforms how you approach intimacy. It encourages patience, empathy, and continuous learning. Rather than seeing rejection as a closed door, you begin to see it as a signpost pointing toward better communication and alignment. This mindset reduces fear and increases emotional intelligence. When rejection is accepted with grace and reflection, it becomes a constructive force that shapes healthier, more respectful relationships. Asking open-ended questions about her definition of intimacy is one of the most effective ways to create meaningful connection because it shifts the focus from assumptions to understanding. Many misunderstandings in relationships happen when people assume that intimacy means the same thing to everyone. In reality, intimacy is deeply personal. For one person, it may center on emotional vulnerability and long conversations. For another, it may involve shared experiences, physical affection, or quiet companionship. By inviting her to describe what intimacy means to her in her own words, you communicate respect for her individuality and curiosity about her inner world. Open-ended questions create space rather than pressure. Unlike yes or no questions, they encourage reflection and elaboration. When you ask something like, what helps you feel closest to someone, you are not steering her toward a specific answer. You are opening a door for her to explore her feelings and preferences. This kind of question signals that there is no correct response to satisfy you. Instead, the goal is to understand her perspective. That absence of expectation reduces anxiety and makes it easier for her to speak honestly. These conversations also reveal emotional priorities. When she explains what intimacy looks like to her, she is sharing values and experiences that shape how she connects with others. Listening carefully to her answer provides insight into how she builds trust and what she needs to feel secure. For example, she might emphasize emotional honesty, shared humor, or consistent presence. Each of these elements becomes a guide for how to nurture the relationship in a way that aligns with her comfort. Rather than guessing or relying on stereotypes, you gain direct knowledge that can inform your behavior. Another important benefit of open-ended questions is that they demonstrate patience. You are showing that you are willing to slow down and explore emotional depth instead of rushing toward a specific outcome. This patience is a powerful signal of respect. It tells her that you value her thoughts and experiences enough to give them time and attention. In a world where conversations can often feel hurried or transactional, this deliberate pace stands out. It creates a calm environment where intimacy can grow organically. Active listening is essential when asking these questions. The purpose is not simply to ask and then wait for your turn to speak. It is to engage fully with what she shares. This means paying attention to her words, tone, and emotions, and responding with empathy. Simple acknowledgments like appreciating her openness or reflecting back what you heard can reinforce that she is being understood. When someone feels truly heard, their sense of connection deepens. They are more likely to continue sharing and exploring emotional territory. Open-ended discussions about intimacy also encourage mutual self-awareness. As she articulates her definition of closeness, she may gain new insight into her own needs and boundaries. Sometimes people have not fully put their feelings into words before. The act of describing them can clarify what they value in relationships. This clarity benefits both of you. It creates a shared language for discussing connection and reduces the likelihood of misinterpretation later. It is equally important to approach these conversations without judgment. Her perspective may differ from your expectations or past experiences. Accepting her viewpoint without trying to correct or reshape it fosters trust. When she senses that her feelings are safe from criticism, she can speak more freely. This acceptance reinforces the idea that intimacy is a collaborative exploration rather than a negotiation to be one. Timing and tone matter as well. Open-ended questions about intimacy should arise naturally within a context of growing comfort. They are best asked in moments of relaxed conversation, rather than during emotionally charged situations. A calm and gentle tone communicates that the discussion is an invitation, not an interrogation. This subtlety helps maintain emotional ease and encourages thoughtful responses. Ultimately, asking open-ended questions about her definition of intimacy transforms the conversation into a shared journey of discovery. It replaces guesswork with dialogue and pressure with curiosity. Through respectful inquiry and attentive listening, you create a space where both people can express their authentic selves. In that space, intimacy becomes not a predefined script, but a co-created experience shaped by understanding and empathy. Showing curiosity without applying pressure is a delicate balance that lies at the heart of healthy intimacy. Genuine curiosity communicates interest, attentiveness, and emotional engagement. It tells a woman that you want to understand her thoughts, feelings, and experiences, not as a means to an end, but because you value who she is as a person. Pressure, on the other hand, introduces tension and expectation. Even when subtle, it can make conversations about intimacy feel like obligations rather than invitations. The difference between curiosity and pressure is often felt more in tone and intention than in the words themselves. Curiosity begins with an open mindset. It requires approaching conversations with the willingness to accept whatever response emerges. When you ask about her feelings or preferences, the goal is not to guide her toward a particular answer that benefits you. Instead, it is to learn about her inner world. This openness is sensed quickly. People are remarkably perceptive when it comes to emotional agendas. If she feels that your curiosity is tied to a hidden expectation, she may become guarded. But when your interest feels sincere and free of ulterior motives, she is more likely to relax and engage honestly. Pressure often arises from urgency. When someone feels anxious about achieving closeness quickly, that urgency can leak into their communication. They may repeat questions, seek reassurance too aggressively, or interpret hesitation as a problem to solve immediately. This creates an atmosphere where the woman may feel responsible for managing the other person's emotions. Instead of focusing on her own comfort, she becomes aware of the expectation to respond in a way that maintains harmony. This emotional burden can inhibit openness and slow the development of trust. To show curiosity without pressure, pacing is essential. Allow conversations to unfold naturally rather than pushing them forward. Silence and pauses are not failures. They are spaces where reflection happens. When you give her time to think and respond at her own speed, you demonstrate respect for her process. This patience communicates that her comfort matters more than the speed of progress. Over time, this steady rhythm fosters a sense of safety that supports deeper sharing. Another key element is emotional neutrality in your reactions. When she shares something personal, responding with calm interest rather than exaggerated excitement or disappointment keeps the conversation balanced. Strong reactions can unintentionally create pressure by signaling that certain answers are preferred. A neutral, attentive response reassures her that all honest expressions are welcome. It reinforces the idea that the conversation is exploratory, not evaluative. Language also plays a subtle role in maintaining this balance. Questions framed as invitations rather than demands feel lighter and more respectful. Phrases that emphasize choice and autonomy remind her that participation is voluntary. This reinforces her sense of control over the interaction. When people feel in control, they are more willing to open up. Open up. Curiosity thrives in environments where autonomy is protected. Self-awareness is crucial in preventing pressure from creeping in. Being mindful of your own expectations allows you to regulate them before they influence your behavior. If you notice feelings of impatience or fear of rejection, acknowledging them internally can help you return to a calmer state. This internal regulation ensures that your outward communication remains steady and respectful. Emotional self-management is an invisible but powerful component of creating comfortable conversations. It is also important to recognize that curiosity is expressed through listening as much as through questioning. Following up on what she says, remembering details, and connecting ideas from previous conversations demonstrates sustained interest. This continuity shows that your curiosity is not superficial or momentary. It is an ongoing engagement with her perspective. Such attentiveness strengthens emotional bonds and signals reliability. When curiosity is free from pressure, it becomes an invitation to mutual exploration. The conversation feels like a shared space where both people can express themselves without fear of being pushed or judged. This environment encourages authenticity. She can share her thoughts and feelings knowing that they will be received with respect rather than leveraged to accelerate intimacy. Ultimately, showing curiosity without applying pressure nurtures trust and emotional ease. It transforms discussions about closeness into opportunities for understanding rather than tests of compatibility. Through patience, self-awareness, and respectful engagement, you create a conversational atmosphere where intimacy can develop at a pace that feels natural to both people. In that atmosphere, connection is guided by empathy and interest, not by urgency or expectation. Respecting emotional readiness and pacing is essential for building intimacy that feels safe, mutual, and sustainable. Every person moves toward closeness at a different speed, shaped by personality, past experiences, and emotional comfort. When you recognize and honor this natural variation, you show emotional intelligence and maturity. Intimacy cannot be rushed without consequences. When it is pushed forward faster than someone is ready for, it often creates anxiety, resistance, or emotional withdrawal. True connection develops when both people feel they have the freedom to move at a pace that matches their comfort. Emotional readiness is not always visible on the surface. A woman may enjoy conversation, laughter, and shared time while still needing more emotional security before deepening intimacy. Assuming that external signs of friendliness automatically equal readiness for closeness can lead to misunderstandings. Respecting pacing requires attentiveness to verbal and nonverbal cues. Hesitation, changes in tone, or subtle shifts in body language can signal that she needs more time. Responding to these cues with patience rather than insistence communicates that her comfort is your priority. Patience is one of the clearest expressions of respect. When you allow intimacy to unfold gradually, you create space for trust to develop naturally. Trust is cumulative. It grows through repeated experiences of safety and reliability. Each positive interaction adds a layer of confidence that the relationship is emotionally secure. Rushing this process can skip important stages of bonding. Just as a strong structure needs a solid foundation, intimacy requires time to establish emotional stability. Respecting pacing also means managing your own expectations. It is natural to feel excitement when a connection is forming, but projecting that excitement as urgency can unintentionally create pressure. When one person feels rushed, they may worry about disappointing the other. This concern can shift the focus from genuine desire to obligation, which undermines authentic intimacy. By regulating your expectations and staying present in the moment, you help maintain a relaxed atmosphere where closeness evolves organically. Communication plays a key role in aligning pacing. Open conversations about comfort levels can prevent misinterpretation. Asking gentle questions about how she feels regarding the progression of the relationship shows consideration. These discussions should be framed as collaborative check-ins rather than negotiations. The purpose is to ensure that both people feel comfortable and heard. When pacing is openly acknowledged, it becomes a shared responsibility rather than a source of silent tension. Another aspect of respecting readiness is accepting that timing may differ between individuals. Emotional alignment is not always immediate. Sometimes one person feels prepared for deeper intimacy while the other needs more time. This difference does not necessarily indicate incompatibility. It simply reflects the uniqueness of each person's emotional rhythm. Demonstrating understanding in these moments strengthens trust. It reassures her that the relationship is not conditional on meeting a specific timeline. Empathy is central to honoring emotional pacing. Trying to imagine how the experience feels from her perspective encourages sensitivity. Past relationships, personal values, and emotional history all influence readiness. While you may not know every detail of her background, acknowledging that it exists fosters compassion. This empathetic stance reduces the temptation to interpret caution as rejection. Instead, it frames her pacing as a legitimate expression of self-protection and self-awareness. Consistency supports emotional readiness by creating predictability. When your behavior is steady and respectful, she can anticipate how interactions will unfold. Predictability reduces anxiety and allows her to relax into the relationship. Sudden shifts in intensity or expectations can be unsettling. A consistent approach signals reliability, which is a cornerstone of emotional safety. It is also important to celebrate gradual progress. Intimacy is not defined by dramatic milestones, but by small moments of increased openness and trust. Recognizing and appreciating these moments reinforces a positive trajectory. It shifts attention away from what has not yet happened and toward what is already growing. This perspective fosters gratitude and patience. Ultimately, respecting emotional readiness and pacing is about honoring autonomy and individuality. It acknowledges that intimacy is a shared journey, not a race. When both people feel free to move at a comfortable speed, the connection becomes more resilient and authentic. Patience, empathy, and open communication create an environment where closeness is invited rather than demanded. In that environment, intimacy deepens naturally, supported by mutual understanding and respect.